did losing sight give you a clearer vision in life?
Yeah, I think it absolutely did.
Selling a business isn't just about the numbers, it's about doing it the right way for you. Today I'm joined by Liz Jackson MBE. Losing her sight at age 26 didn't hold her back, it gave her an even clearer vision for business.
A lot of entrepreneurs, you have this kind of poverty mindset often when you start.
Yeah.
And so you think, I'll do everything because I'll save money. I outsourced all the stuff I was going to be really naff at, and the company grew at about 75% a year for about the first 3 years.
She built and sold her own company, has now helped over 1,000 business owners exit successfully, averaging £23 million per deal.
There weren't any blind women entrepreneurs scaling businesses like I were. I got loads of free PR.
After this, you'll know exactly how to do it right. Let's do this.
Life has got to be better. You know, is it affording you more time with your family? Is it affording you more time because you want to have an impact on something else? Is there another business in you that you want to start?
ActionCOACH, the help you need to grow your business.
Liz, did losing sight give you a clearer vision in life?
Yeah, I think it absolutely did. I think sight can be really distracting as a sense. I think I'd probably feel a bit sorry actually for most of you that are sighted.
Oh my God.
Because I think there is a huge strength in, really listening to people, not having the distractions around you that kind of stop you from fully focusing on what people are saying, how they're saying it, the environment you're in. I think it's quite a gift, not having that distraction.
So you have a reputation for being the blind visionary.
Gino Wickman thinks so.
Well, I mean, look, you're seeing success differently. Like what you just said. I mean, you just said to me, I feel sorry for people with sight.
Yeah, I think I feel sorry for people that get so distracted that they can't be focused. And particularly you struggle with being focused on human beings. I love, being able to really, listen to someone really well without those distractions. But also, when you're blind, I think you make human connections so much more quickly. So if I'm out to dinner with you, James, and we're halfway through the meal, and I need to go to the bathroom, right? So I have to make myself vulnerable and say, James, would you mind walking me to the bathroom? Right, that means I have to take your arm, so we're now connected. And as we walk, and you will often say, do you know what? It must be really tough not having sight. 5 years ago, I had a cancer scare or something like that. And all of a sudden, because I'm vulnerable, someone else has made themselves vulnerable, and you've got a best mate in like half an hour. And that happens to me, at least once a day, but often way more than that. And I love it. I love that.
I tell you what I loved, and as you said it there, I kind of felt it, because I had the honour of walking you to your seat here. It wasn't the toilet, it was the seat. So I walked you to your seat, and all of a sudden
Toilet
I just
be next.
well, yeah, you let me know when you want the toilet. I just became acutely aware that I just wanted to explain a few things in your situation, and I definitely felt connected to you.
Yeah.
So it's a really good analogy. Now, most people think vision is about sight. Clearly for you, it's not. Now, what's the biggest thing that you think people are blind to when it comes to success?
It's interesting, isn't it? In terms of, what is success? How do you interpret what success is? And for me, I guess it's, deliberately living my life towards something I really want to achieve, but using my entire imagination to dream, what that big dream could be, without any barriers, and then setting my sights on it. I guess if you physically can't see, perhaps perhaps you don't see the visual barriers so much. Like, I can't see you frowning at me now going, what the hell is she talking
I'm
about?
Smiling. I'm
So
smiling.
I'm going to carry on with that, with that train of thought and that idea. So I don't get the people sitting back in their chairs, crossing their legs, crossing their arms, looking skeptical, going, oh, flip, what is she coming up with now? You just kind of bulldozer on through with that kind of plan and that drive, because I'm just not aware of the skeptics.
Oh, wow. Delete the skeptics. Look, I asked Rachel Riley a question about, how come she's been so successful. And she said to me, she was sat in that chair where you are right now. She says, James, who says I'm successful?
Yeah.
And your first point there is, look, what is success? And then for you, you said, for me, it's deliberately living the life I want. I am going for my dream and I'm bulldozing through. I can't even see the skeptics. I've just ignored the skeptics. Would that be is that the advice for the listeners?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, there's a guy that I listened to quite a long time ago now, but when I listened to what he had to say, it's a guy called Earl Nightingale.
Oh, yeah.
Don't know if you've...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to it. It was obviously recorded on vinyl, and decades and decades ago. But he just said, something that just really resonated with me. I think we get caught up in success being about all sorts of things, materialism, or these crazy identities that we label ourselves with. But it is just about achieving something that you set your heart on. We have a strapline in our business, which is everyone gets somewhere in life, but just a few people get there on purpose. And I think, it's taken me deliberately with what life we have, because none of us know how long we've got, so why wouldn't you live it deliberately towards, a dream that you imagined and would love for it to come to reality.
What have you set your heart
on? So I think the sorts of things I set my heart on are I love business. So business for me is my Disney World. But it's about building, an amazing business that has a huge impact. So it's about impact. And our goal is to become, in the field that we're in, the most impactful business. So that gets me out of bed in the morning. I just love that. But also it's about, I want to have a really successful marriage. I've got an amazing husband and I don't want to have a mundane marriage, anything mediocre. I want to be passionately in love with my husband until we're dead, basically. Yeah. Commitment really matters to me. And I want to have a heart connection with my children. That's really important to me.
How many children have you got?
I've got 2.
What are the names?
Maddie and Harry.
How old are they?
So Mads is going to be 18 in March.
Is she mad?
She is. She's definitely lively. And then Harry's going to be 13. So.
All right. Okay. So we've got to set our heart on something. So I just want the listeners to know that you've continued your career. You're a marketing director in business, and you're really serious about what you do. Now we're going to get to the business side of it in a bit, but I want us to go before then. When did you lose your sight?
I was 26 when I lost my sight.
And how long ago was that?
Oh no, it was like 3 years ago, James.
So you were 26 when you lost your sight.
I'm 52 now.
So right, so you've had half your life with sight and half your life without.
Yeah.
And do you remember the day it happened, or did it creep up?
No, so it was quite sudden. So I had just started a business actually, and I've got a degenerate eyesight condition. It's genetic. Right. It's called retinitis pigmentosus. And so from an early age, I was told you'll go blind. But a lot of people with RP go blind in their 40s. So, you kind of, I don't know if you remember being 20.
Yeah.
You might even be 20. But, you sort of think you're pretty kind of immortal. These things just aren't going to happen, are they? So one day, I picked up a book, I read it, and then the next day I couldn't read the words. And then the next, couple of days later, I couldn't find the book. So it took me about 3 months to go completely blind over that time.
Which is quite quick at a young age. And how did you handle it initially? Because you had a long time to come to terms with it anyway. Eventually it was going to happen.
It was quite practical. So I'd just started business. So I was living a pretty exciting life. So I'd quit my job. I managed to persuade the Prince's Trust to give me $5,000 to start a company. My company was growing quite quickly. I'd just met the husband I talked about earlier. Yeah. So I was,
what's his name?
Ali. So I'd just fallen in love with him. So life was looking pretty good. And I have a faith, and so there was a sense of, I've always got this practice where every morning I get up, I pray about the things I'm thankful for. And for me, I always feel bad about this because I didn't have a day of tears. It was more a practical issue for me. How am I going to do biz dev? How am I going to get to appointments? How am I going to do the VAT return? It was practical stuff. So I hired a PA, which was brilliant because straight away I wasn't doing the admin. I outsourced all like salaries, VAT, all that stuff, which I'm not gifted.
And you stuck to the biz dev.
I stuck to the biz dev, I stuck to the recruiting the talent, I stuck to looking after our clients, and those were the things I was really gifted at. So actually, for a lot of entrepreneurs who really struggle to, you have this kind of poverty mindset often when you start.
Yeah.
And so you think, I'll do everything because I'll save money. I outsourced all the stuff I was going to be really naff at, and the company grew at about 75% a year for about the first 3 years. So it was like a huge gift again to do that. Plus, there weren't any blind women entrepreneurs scaling businesses like I were. I got loads of free PR, which really gave us a kind of a really needed knee up at that point.
Yeah, and it did scale the business.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did really well.
What was the short story of that business then? What happened?
So it wasn't that short. I ran it for 17 years. It was a marketing business. We employed about 100 people in our head offices in Basingstoke. I franchised it 18 times around the country. It was a lovely business and a fabulous way to kind of, grow up as an entrepreneur, if you like. Learn the tricks of the trade. I didn't go to university. I started work when I was 17 as an apprentice, and so I hadn't, I didn't know how to manage a business or do any of those things. So recruiting leadership team and, learning how to hire people, how to let them go if they weren't quite right for the business, all those sorts of things. They were the things that I learned, and I'm so thankful for it. Yeah.
So you built a business to 100 people. Did you recruit them all?
Oh, no, definitely not. I recruited the first 20, and then we had somebody else who helped and took that on. And
then you eventually sold that business.
Yeah.
And what was the one thing that made the biggest difference to growing and successfully scaling that business and then selling it?
I think the one thing that made the biggest difference was the people in the leadership team, the talent in the company, and how inspired they were and how much fun we had doing it, and probably just how passionate I felt about it. I loved it. But I got a great thrill out of seeing people go on that same journey that I did. People start with us as apprentice and go through the stages and grow up in the business. It was just brilliant. We had loads of fun.
Yeah, I think something that's already stood out in this interview is you got other people doing things very quickly.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh no, I didn't recruit beyond 20 or so. Got someone else doing it again.
Yeah.
what was the one thing that was different? One of the things that you said was the leadership team.
Yeah.
The talent on the leadership team, you said. How did you build that leadership team?
Trial and error.
What kind of errors?
Recruiting on the CV. I mean, I remember I did pretty badly at school. So I just about made it through, was not far off being expelled when I left school, and then started as an apprentice. When you see a CV that comes through and it's got a big brand on it, and they've got amazing degrees or a master's, and it looks really super impressive and way better than anything I'd ever achieved, you can be like a little bit starstruck. And so you recruit for the CV, not the character. And that would be a huge lesson for me, is make sure, recruit against your values, know what your values are in the business, recruit against them, and recruit somebody for their character.
This episode is sponsored by the ActionCOACH Foundation. Join ActionCOACH Foundation UK to empower young entrepreneurs with the skills to succeed in business and beyond. Whether you're an aspiring student, a passionate educator, or a generous donor, your involvement can spark innovation and opportunity. Visit actioncoachfoundation.org.uk to build a brighter, more entrepreneurial UK. Now back to the podcast.
Not what they've done in the past. It actually doesn't really mean very much, I don't think.
How long did it take you to build the talented leadership team then? Was that a number of years? Was it months?
So it was a family business. So I recruited, my dad was actually my first recruit.
Right.
And my dad had been on the board.
What was his character like during the interview?
So he didn't go for an interview.
Yeah.
I'd known him quite a long time, and I kind of headhunted him out of what he was doing. Yeah. And it was at the time where we were franchising the business, and I needed someone to head that up, and he had that skill set. So that was what I would say, kind of a quick win. I think some of the other ones, there was definitely some, people that have been in the business. You just notice they got. They were dynamic, they were agile, they were imaginative, they were people that just love customers, they loved the people around them, natural leaders.
And look, you built that leadership team. You said that was one of the areas, but you also said you created an inspirational, fun environment for people to be in. And that's a culture that a lot of listeners are wanting. How did you get that culture in place?
I mean, it's probably easier to talk about how we do it now, but
what, at Initium?
Yeah. In terms of how, because I'm looking back at that now. It was 15 years ago. So, but I mean, communication was really important to that. So people understanding, what was going on in the business, what our numbers looked like. That was really motivational. I was told by a management consultant that I shouldn't sit on the floor. So we had this massive floor with 100 people on it, and I insisted on sitting in the middle of it. And they said, you can't sit in the middle of the floor, because I used to love high-fiving people. I mean, this was, a long time ago. People would do cartwheels when they got deals,
right?
Around the office, and we would just have so much fun. There were displays showing, how many calls people had done, and their success, and everyone would cheer. It was a really vibrant sales environment. And I remember a consultant saying to me, Liz, if you want to sort of make this business not dependent on you, you've got to get out of that floor and you've got to sit in an office, which I did and hated. And so I was back on the floor within a year, because it was just horrible for me. So the business might have been more successful without me, but I hated it. So I wanted to build a business that I enjoyed, as well as one that was successful.
I've got pictures of people doing cartwheels in my mind, and the thing that I got from that point that you just said is that you were part of it. You were sat there in the middle, and you were part of it, and that was part of how you got the culture in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, you did sell that. You sold the business, and now you're with Initium. And what do Initium? Am I pronouncing that right, by the way? Is it Initium?
So think Robbie Williams, Millennium. So imagine Robbie singing Millennium, and then go Initium. It's Initium. So that's how.
That's it. That is definitely going to be on the start of the podcast. There you go. Robbie Williams singing Millennium, and you
And we're
singing...
the rock stars of the corporate finance,
Yes,
well, basically.
Right. So rock stars of corporate finance. What does that mean?
So I guess, for us, what we love is working with entrepreneurs. So many of us come from this kind of entrepreneurial kind of background. We're besotted by entrepreneurs. We just love people who can start something from absolutely nothing and scale it. And then, the joy that we have is helping them find a new home for it when the time comes for that next big adventure. And so our job is, finding buyers, creating those really competitive bidding environments, getting them best terms and best value, and best buyer.
Which is the dream for a lot of the listeners right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the keys to doing that successfully, to growing the business and successfully making a sale?
So I think it is, is building a business that is desirable for buyers. But I mean, those are the same ingredients that are, that are in sustainable, profitable companies. So, businesses that have got a great leadership team, that have got brilliant talent in their businesses, that look after their customers, understand how they make their money, that retain their customers, that can predict their future, that potentially have recurring revenues, but not always. Businesses that are just, innovative, that care about things like NPS scores, visionary businesses.
Look, I've got that. Desirable for buyers, sustainable, profitable, look after the customer, recurring revenue on some occasions where you can, great talent in the business. You can predict the future. There's a future to the industry that you're in. NPS scores basics, isn't it? Well, that's not basics. That's a stupid comment from me. NPS, most people don't even do NPS, but
yeah,
that's what makes it sellable. And visionary companies that are wanting to go somewhere else and better. That's what makes a business sellable, all of what you've just said.
Yeah, and I think so. I mean, what we're talking about there is businesses that have less risk in them. So businesses that enable you to sleep at night are, they're the ones that buyers love. Buyers love businesses that don't, that have less risk in them. They've got an appetite for some risk, but the businesses that demand the highest multiple and are the best assets in the market are those that are more predictable and aren't dependent on any one customer or any one person or any one supplier.
Yeah, not dependent on that big customer. 50% of the turnover is one customer. What qualifies for dependency on a customer? Is it 30% plus?
Depends on the industry.
Right.
So some industries buyers might have not much of a tolerance for much more than 20% reliance.
Right. So that's a pretty decent benchmark for the people listening, isn't it?
Yeah.
20%.
Others, but where perhaps there's only a small amount of corporates in the industry. So I'm thinking big pharma, for example. It wouldn't be unusual for there to be customer dependency perhaps as high as 40, even 50%, but it's understood by the industry. So it's worth finding out in your industry what the KPIs are that buyers care about.
Yeah, one thing that's got in my head in terms of what you said is it's where the owner can sleep at night. They can relax a little bit. It's running itself to a degree. Now, I've met a lot of people that want to sell the business because they're the opposite of that. They're losing sleep at night. And How many people like that come to you?
Not many. I mean, it's great if you meet those people 3 years ahead of a sale.
Is that what? Oh, that's really good. Is that what you say? So, from a stressful scenario, 3 years you can get it sale ready.
Yeah, exactly. So if they're in a stressful environment and they've got the heart to do it, because you've got to be up for this, haven't you? Because, if you've got a business, some people get a bit addicted to fighting fires. So those individuals that want to change, they've got to be up for the change. So they need to be advisable entrepreneurs. So, it's great when you sit down with people like that and you say, here's what your value would be today. If we were to take this business to market, this is what we think you'd achieve. By the way, this is how how the buyer would view you. So these are the things where you just, you're going to get 10 out of 10, but you're going to score low on these areas. So we need to fix this stuff. And this is often where the risk is. Here's the kind of buyers that we think are probably going to be interested. So you're building this business for trade, PE, maybe the staff, perhaps an EOT is what they're going to be working towards. And then shareholder alignment, who wants to do what? And so when you've done that piece of work with them, then we can work with ActionCOACH and say, right, we've done this piece of work. These are the KPIs. Coach them, help them over the next 3 years to build a business that scores really highly in these areas, and then bring it back and we'll sell it for loads.
Okay, so you've mentioned a few in there. Can we go over a few of these different options to sell the business actually in the future? And doesn't matter, listeners, if you're one of these stressful people that's losing sleep right now, within 3 years you can get your business ready. Can you do it in less than 3 years, by the way, or is that a good benchmark?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on scale and, where the areas are in risk. But yeah, absolutely. If you've got a leadership team that's got some empty gaps on it, you need an accountability chart and you've got some empty seats, if you like, then sure, those things can be solved fairly swiftly. If you've got a customer base with 90% reliance, then, I guess you've got to invest in that. So if the entrepreneur's up for it, then I think you can probably bring about those changes in that time.
And up for it means motivated, appetite, open-minded,
ready to invest in it.
And ready to invest as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned MBO. I don't know whether you said that. You said EOT, you said PE, and management buyouts as well. So assume the listeners know nothing.
Yeah.
Which one should we start with, MBO, EOT or PE?
We could do my favourite one, which is what we are, which is an EOT.
Yeah. Why is it your favourite, by the way?
Well, because we're an EOT. That is the only reason it's my favourite, actually. Right. It's not right for a lot of people.
So what is an EOT? Just assume we know nothing.
Yeah, it's probably the one that people understand the least, actually, as well, because they're fairly new. But an EOT, it stands for an employee ownership trust. And it's fundamentally where the shareholders decide they're going to sell their business to their staff. So the staff become beneficiaries of a trust that buys the business off of the shareholders. So it's a fantastic transaction for a business that wants to retain its culture, where perhaps the business is very people based. So, and often where the owners really, they've got that strong alliance and they want to stay in the business as well. It's also a tax-free transaction, which for some of your listeners that are thinking about the CGT increases coming up in April, there is a benefit for that, but you absolutely don't do it for the tax reason. It's just icing on the cake for that kind of transaction.
Look, I think most people might know what CGT is, just in case, capital gains tax. Yeah. And that's gone up from 10% to 18% from April, yeah?
I think it's going up to 24.
10% was the entrepreneur's tax relief, wasn't it? That's going up. to 18%,
Yeah.
but overall it's going up to 24. So anything above 1 million is the entrepreneur's relief. Is
Yeah,
that right?
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So is it from April 25 that it's going to be 18%?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got an EOT. We're going to come back to that in a second because you've explained what it is. We're going to play all these off against each other in a second. So MBO, that's another option.
Yeah. Yeah. An MBO is another option.
And just describe the difference.
So that's where your management team buy the business.
It's kind of like an EOT, but
sort of. Sometimes they need to raise the debt to do that, and so sometimes those can be private equity backed transactions. So it's an option if you've got a great team,
especially a great management team or leadership team.
Yeah, who've got that desire to take on, ownership.
Yeah, the EOTs are becoming increasingly popular, aren't they, moving forward, actually? And MBOs have been very popular in the past. And PE, what's PE?
A PE is an institutional investor, so a private equity company, where they're looking to invest in businesses, great businesses, where there's a great growth story. And they're usually looking for a return on their investment within sort of five years.
So I've got a few options there. Are there any other options to sell the business?
I'm sure there are. I mean, I suspect that if you had our CEO here, a deal maker as his job, he would sit down and say, do you know what? The art of the possible. We talked about imagination earlier. Yeah. You need imagination in deal making to carve, a future out. And there is a plethora of options, a buffet of, if you like. And so it's a really good idea to get to really get some education around this, and way ahead of when you want to do a deal, to really understand what would be the right path for you, but really so that it creates the kind of exit you're looking for, so you can live the post-sale dream, the post-sale life you're wanting to live. Lots want to stay in. Some want to go. Some want to work with their management team and have them have some skin in the game. And others are looking, for everyone to be part of it and create the John Lewis model. So,
just to elaborate on the John Lewis model.
That is the EOT. So Richard Sounds is an EOT, for example. So there are some great brands out there. John Lewis is slightly different. It's not an EOT, but it's this kind of partnership. So we call ourselves co-owners at Initium.
And how many people are at Initium?
There's 30 of us.
And everyone owns a little bit of the business?
We're all beneficiaries in the trust, yeah. So, and we're all enrolled. So the minute you pass probation, you become a beneficiary of the trust, a co-owner.
All right. So there's MBOs, there's EOTs, there's PE, and, there's going out and finding your competitor who might want to buy you or someone else that might want to buy directly. How do you know which one to choose?
A few people in our business, lots of people in our business that I'm in awe of, but particularly our research team, who are just so skilled. They've got this holistic way of thinking about who might be the right buyer for this business. And so they'll be thinking not domestically, but internationally. It's over 50% of the businesses that we sell will go to an overseas buyer, for example. They're often not a competitor. So competitors often don't pay the highest price. They're often somebody, who's in a kind of a business where there's synergies. So an adjacent industry, manufacturing, adjacent products, or they share a similar customer base, or they want to get into that space. So they've been looking for a foothold either in the UK or in that market. And that's a real skill set to build that, that list of buyers, and then check they can afford it. They've done deals before. No one wants our client to be their first rodeo. So you want to sell to someone who's used to buying, who knows what they're doing, because momentum in deals is really, really important. So we're looking to get a deal done.
What's the average deal size, time, duration?
About 9 months. So on
It's pretty
occasion,
quick.
it'd be 12, but you want to create that competitive tension. So you want to start with a big list, drill it down, go out to, a number of parties, and then create that brilliant bidding environment.
Yeah, avoiding deal fatigue, keeping momentum.
Exactly, yeah.
So, look, EOT in particular is not one that's talked about a lot.
Yeah.
It's becoming increasingly popular, though. So what would the journey be like? I mean, just choose, you don't have to name the business, but someone who's been through it recently that Initium have helped go through it. What does the journey look like?
So it's a guy called Tom Collingford from Optigood.
Right.
Who's one of our recent, well, in fact, he's just completed a year. And I know he's loving life because I've spoken to him recently on a webinar in terms of what life's like a year later. And what's really interesting is he said, everyone turns the lights off now at the end of the day. We're all staying in Premier Inns. And, people do feel that sense of ownership. And it becomes a really tangible thing. You really do start to see people looking to save money on the stuff they can, looking to deliver better customer experiences. You've got people who all think the same as, the owner.
That is such a good example, actually. We've got everyone in the business now wants to turn the lights off at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because they care. It's actually they realise the part of it. That is even though this is probably offensive to them people in the business, because they probably were committed to the business before, but they're more committed now because they're turning the lights off. They just care more. Increases people's commitment to the business and the longevity and the success.
Yeah, absolutely. And, because they're owners, but also because you're sharing more information more regularly. So as co-owners, they're now entitled to learn more about the business they now co-own. And so, they know so much more about customer satisfaction, about the numbers, about, the things that move the dial, when all of a sudden, they care about it. So they want to, you get those 2% increases right across the business on 100 different areas. And so the business starts to, really pick up pace.
Starting your own business was an exciting time, wasn't it? The good days you had and the bad. You knew you'd have to work hard, but you did it for your future. Lately, though, you're missing out on the important things in life. Time seems to be slipping by. So make the change. Claim back your work-life balance and grow your business today. Visit actioncoach.co.uk.
I've just made some notes, actually, because you've just taught me some really important lessons, actually. You said, because now they're owners, we have to share more information with them more regularly. So there's a transparency to that. There's a visibility of that. Everybody's expecting to see that. But then you basically said people are now aware of the needle movers that they weren't aware of before.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge for every business. Transparently making visible the most important things to the most important people. And the EOT does it. You have to communicate regular and more visibly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be an EOT to do it either. But, making sure that people are aware of the scorecard you're working against and the things that really make your business, more valuable is good for everybody, isn't it?
Who did you say this example was? Tom?
Tom Collingford, yeah.
Tom Collingford. So people are turning the lights off and booking Premier Inns. All right, I suppose is that one step up from Travelodge?
Well, I think there's been some ibises in certainly in my expenses since we became an EOT as well.
Okay, there you go. Hey, and look, no offense, these are all successful businesses in their own right, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a bit of a journey there for an EOT. What's the journey like for an MBO?
Do you know what? I don't think there is a standard journey. I think, for all of these different transactions, whether it's trade, private equity, there are businesses within those categories that will create a different journey, and they can be tailored depending on what the business owner is looking for. I think the thing that your listeners need to understand is that there are options, and the thing that you must never do is, often a deal happens because somebody has received a tap on the shoulder, right? So this happens all day, every day, where a business owner is sitting there and someone taps them on the shoulder and says, I'd like to talk about buying your business. And the business owner is firstly massively complimented. Yeah. And then they're hugely befriended. And what they end up doing is an offer, gets made, it's put on the table, and perhaps even that deal gets done. But if you've spent 2 decades, investing blood, sweat, years into this amazing business that you've built, and you're going to sell it to one person, and you never went to the market to see what potentially you could have sold it for and on what terms, I just can't imagine why you would do that. Why would you spend 2 decades investing so much of your life to sell it in such a non-exploratory way, in such a...
Is it through desperation that people do it?
No, I think it's through fear. So I think the buyers create, this one-time offer only kind of messaging. I think sometimes they've got no idea how much their business could be worth or how it could be viewed. And so they don't speak to people like us to do that valuation piece, ahead of the deal. I'm very grateful for all these people who do the taps on the shoulders, because the wise business owners out there, they get a tap on the shoulder and they go, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what my business is worth. And they pick up the phone to me. But on those occasions, most 9 out of 10 times, we do not end up selling to the buyer they've got in tow. It always ends up going to another buyer who was better fit, was prepared to pay more, had deeper pockets and better terms.
Well, you know that because of the volume of business sales that you're doing.
Yeah.
I heard from one of our leaders, Brad Sugars, actually. He says, typically to sell a business, you need 3 buyers. You need 3 potential buyers. 2 of them usually fall out. What would you say to
that? Yeah,
that might be old. That might be old information now.
Yeah, if I look back at some of the processes that we've run, for 3, definitely you can run a great process. It is that competitive tension, but we've had as many as 7, 11 bids. Particularly in industries where there is a lot of M&A activity. So I think it's find out, how busy, how frothy your market is, how much M&A activity is there going on out there. That's a really important thing to do, and make sure you bring all the really great parties to the table when you're going to run your process, and timing that deal. Making sure you bring the business to market when the business is exhibiting the right characteristics, but also when the buyers are ready to buy is, there's a skill set in that.
Okay, so someone comes to you to sell a business, you approach a lot of people to find the right buyer and do it in the right way and get the right valuation and do it all properly. Now, I'm guessing you're approaching quite a lot of people. But for the ones that do actually buy, were they looking to buy before you approached them, or were they not even looking to buy before that point?
So most of the people that we sell to have bought businesses in the past.
Right.
So they are businesses. Like I said earlier, we wouldn't want our client to be anyone's first rodeo. It's quite hard to sell to someone who's never bought before. And so they will be people with a track record of healthy acquisitions. But no, they're probably not looking right now for a business that exactly matches the business that we're showing to them. And so this is sales and marketing. We need to pitch this business, a narrative that we tell to the buyer, needs to be benefits rich. It needs to be done with passion. We need to be tenacious. And we need to make sure the right buyers are getting the teasers, are receiving the IMs, so that they have that opportunity to consider that acquisition opportunity.
No wonder they've got you in your role doing that, because I'm feeling the passion and the desire to find the right buyer and get this business ready for sales straight from you.
Well, do you know what? I don't actually, so that isn't my main job. We've got a team of amazing people who do that. My job is very much talking to the entrepreneurs at the front of the process, and the end of the process. So the bit I love the most is once people have sold their businesses, they join something called the Initium Fellows Network,
right,
which is a network of 250 people that have all been through this process with us. And my job is to make sure that the next adventure in life is more exciting than the last one. And so I get to see what people do, post-sale. So they're people that have had huge liquidity events or big liquidity events. They're still massively talented, and they've got tons of, they've got some time for the first time in their lives. And most of them, once they've, it's like you've climbed Everest, isn't it? You've summited Everest and you look around and you think, what really matters? And a lot of those people, for them, it's impact. It's what's my legacy? How do I pass on everything I've learned to the next generation of entrepreneurs? What boards can I serve on? What charities can I help? What difference do I want to make? And I get to do that with a lot of my time, which is incredibly rewarding for me.
Philanthropy, contribution, giving back, that's what happens at the end of this. I can see it. They get the time back, they get this sense of freedom. There's a bit of self-actualization going on there, isn't there, for people? They've accomplished something of such magnitude, and I'm guessing it's life-changing amounts of money on average. I mean, what's the average multiple in the UK?
Oh, I don't think there is an average multiple, but I mean, there is. Because I wouldn't want people to take from this and go, oh, that would be, if we take EBITDA and times it by 6, that would be an average in the UK. It's hugely different depending on whether you've got a SaaS business, a medcoms agency, a manufacturing firm. So, you need to talk to us if you want to get an idea of valuation.
Yeah, that's the starting point, is it? Let's get a valuation. Let's see where you're at.
Let's do an assessment of value. Yeah. So it's not a desktop valuation. It's, if you were going to sell this business tomorrow, what would it demand in the market? What would it be? Where do we think the offers would fall? And why do we think the offers would fall there? And what is it that you've done that has increased value? And most importantly, what are you doing right now that's decreasing value? So how do we fix those gaps and make this a super, rocket fueled sale process when the time's right?
And stuff that's decreasing value is stuff like dependence on core customers. Yeah, that decreases
the
value.
owner dependency,
over reliance on the owner.
Poor financial reporting. Looking at businesses and making decisions, but not based on up to date information. I put lots of information requests out there. It's amazing. Lots of people can't tell me the top 20 clients by revenue and by margin for the last 3 years. That's quite a standard piece of information, but lots of people aren't receiving that information and don't have it at their fingertips. Don't know what products they're making the most money out of, or the most, the services that they're making, or the geographies, or whatever it might be. So without that kind of insight at your fingertips, how can you make agile, great decisions for the business? So a lot of our time can be, spent looking at the data that you see and making sure that it's enabling you to make, the decisions that drive the business forward in the right direction.
It's a really good little challenge, really, for the listeners, that is. Who are your top 20 clients by margin and by revenue? What kind of insights does that give you then when you know that?
Well, knowing where you make your money, so you could be, it's a whole 80-20 rule, isn't it? Are you spending 80% of your time on the 20% of clients that make you the most money? Or are you spending, a load of your time looking after clients that are costing you money to service, or you're making very little margin out of them? And if you don't know that as a business owner, how can you make sure that you drive this business forward in a way that makes it super profitable?
Out of curiosity, of the people that come to you, what percentage of them, at the click of a few buttons, oh, you asked that question, oh, click, 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 there you go. What percentage of them can do that and what percentage can't?
I would say maybe 10%.
What, can?
Can, yeah.
Wow, 1 in 10.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing to do, though, isn't it?
A click of a button, yeah. I mean, lots of people have to go off and talk to an accountant who will spend several weeks pulling that information together.
But it automatically, if they can't get that in a click of the button, what that tells you and what that tells us right now in this conversation is they're not able to make the quick business decisions because they're not being presented that information.
Yeah, exactly. And then how do you translate that into, the targets you set your sales director and his team? Go win this type of business because we make the most money on it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of insights can come from that. What's your best free piece of advice then for the listeners that, whether it's now in the next 12 to 24 months or in the future sometimes, that they want to sell the business? What's your best free bits of advice for them?
I think it would be, of course, talking to us. I think it's
how long have Initium been going?
35 years. So we've been, as a business, we've been trading for 35 years. We've done over 1,000 transactions in that time.
And these are significant transactions, by the way, folks. We're talking about big sums. Is there an average or is there not an average here?
So I looked at the average for the last 4 years and it's 23 million enterprise value. So that's how much we're averagely selling businesses for. But, there's some top ends of that, sort of 120 million. Our biggest deal has been 500 million. But mostly it's that sweet spot between kind of 15 and 50 is where we would do most of our deals.
Well, as soon as you saying 15 million, this is a life-changing amount of money, isn't it?
It is a life-changing amount of money, yeah, absolutely. And I think understanding, what is your number is a really kind of, it's a soul-searching thing to do, isn't it? Is why do I want to sell this business? What will my life be like if I'm not running this business? Why do I want to sell this business? How much do I want to sell it for? Why does it need to be that number? And some people I've spoken to, the reason we set up the fellows in the first place is because, when I first joined the business, I spoke to a number of entrepreneurs who we'd sold, and some of them were having these massive identity crisis. They'd sold their businesses for, 20 odd million quid. Day after the deal, which is quite unusual, but the day after the deal, one guy said to me, he was on a beach in the Bahamas, and just thinking, what the hell have I done? And that night he went out for dinner, met somebody, and they said, what do you do? And he said, I'm retired. And he said, I was devastated. And the reason it's really important is because you've got to, this business, it serves your lifestyle. It's there to serve your dream. So what do you want to do? It's an existential thing. What life has got to be better. Is it affording you more time with your family? Is it affording you more time because you want to have an impact on something else? Is there another business in you that you want to start? Why do you want to sell it? And then how much for? So those are really important questions, and we can help you answer that. I run probably 50 events a year, which I absolutely love doing. And at all of those, I have a bunch of fellows and a bunch of wannabe fellows. And they just sit around chewing the fat over. And at the end of that, it's just so great to be able to spend time in that kind of ecosystem, if you like, and start to think about that. You know, who am I? What do I want?
Look, your events, number one, your events sound amazing. But when you told that story just then about the gentleman on the beach the day after, 20 million, whatever he sold for, I finally got what you said, what you really meaning. Yeah, but he was lost his identity. It was a crisis going on. He's lost his identity.
Yeah.
He had to literally say these words out of his mouth, and it didn't feel right. I'm retired.
Yeah.
Now, is that a matter of it just being new and uncomfortable, or is that a matter of him not being happy, actually? Because anything new is uncomfortable.
I think it's just some people get their value, you know, the value of who they are as a human being is having 150 people that depend on them for salaries every month, is being able to walk in and, you know, have respect from the people that you employ because you're the founder CEO. You know, if you leave all of that behind and you haven't worked really hard on what do I care about that isn't just this business, if your identity is all tied up in that and then suddenly it's not there, then actually it's pretty awful. And the exit can look awful, especially if you're really super passionate about it. You know, you're an innovator, you know, you're someone who's built product, who, you know, and suddenly your workshop's not there as well. And, you know, these things really, really need thinking through.
You're making me realise the magnitude of the importance of the little things. It's like this is going to sound really sad. I don't know why I'm, you know, it's like my little girl, you know, I'm putting her to bed and she's laughing and smiling with me, you know. 10 years from now, I'm not going to be putting her to bed and she's not going to be laughing and smiling. It's going to be gone. And that's the little things that you've got to appreciate. And, you know, this gentleman on the beach the next day, it's gone.
Yeah.
All of them little things that he might have taken for granted before because he was blinded by, forgive the pun there, the sale for 20 million and all of these natural connotations of what 20 million pounds actually give you. But you don't, and that could dominate your thought over realizing actually you're not going to be seeing them people anymore.
Yeah.
You're not going to be walking in and saying hello to Rachel on the desk anymore.
And, you know, even worse, if you get that exit wrong and you live in the village and your factory's, you know, on the outskirts of the village, so you employ, you know, family potentially, you know, pay people that, you know, you've spent 20 years working with, so they're friends now, and the exit goes wrong, right? The buyer isn't what everyone hoped it was going to be. And you can't even go to your local pub now because everyone hates you because you're the one who sold out. You know, it is so important to get this right. And, you know, and also to get that emotional stuff sorted out well ahead of a sale. You know, you don't leave it for that 9-month process. You do this 3-5 years ahead. It's just so important.
You got me. Liz, you've got me. Honestly, you've grabbed my attention. I get it. I think all of the listeners get it.
Well, I've got 250 people who'd love to talk about it all the time,
okay.
all day, every day.
Yeah, look, well, then we need to put an event on together and invite people along to it. Got some quick questions for you, Liz. What's been the hardest lesson that you've had to learn in life?
Oh, tricky. I think the hardest lesson that I've had, I was born massively independent, you know, I'm hugely determined. So I just craved independence. I left home when I was 19, couldn't wait. My parents were devastated. You know, they wanted me to settle. But I'm hugely independent. And I think the biggest lesson that I've I've learned is that being interdependent, creating great teams, working with super talented people that are brighter, cleverer, more able than me in the areas that I'm weak, having a great husband and knowing what I'm good at and what he's good at and not feeling I need to be the one who does it. Interdependency has been something that it's taken me a long time to learn, and I love that. That's been a great lesson in life.
And what's the most beautiful thing when it comes to selling a business?
Oh, the most beautiful thing, I think, is the impact that I've seen people, quite a lot of the fellows, when they sell to, there's a great deal actually, and I can talk about this because Peter sent me, it's a guy called Peter Schultheist, and he sent me a photo yesterday, and he is the cleverest man in the world. Like, he's a genius, a professor genius, but he still sends me photos. Which I think's hilarious. But he sent me a photo of him sailing in to Japan with Mount Fuji just there as he sailed past, right? And he sold to a business called Judges, which so it's Geotech's a beautiful British manufacturing company, sold to a fantastic British manufacturing company. And what Peter loved was, that Judges could provide the team that he'd built, this great business that he'd built. The team have now got like career possibilities they couldn't ever have imagined if it had just been Geotech. They've got a customer base that is just completely blown way open now, with loads more opportunities. They've got a buyer with deeper pockets, resources, sales and marketing expertise. What it's brought to the table is they can take this already amazing business and turn it into, an incredible force of nature in the space that they occupy. And I think that's what you need to do when you look for a buyer. It's got to be someone who can bring, something special to the party and take the business that you've built and the team that you employ and the customers that you've got, and sprinkle it entirely with fairy dust and just, take it to the stratosphere, really.
What's the best gift that you could give anyone?
In life, just generally?
Yeah.
Time. I think the best thing you can get is time and focus. To really, I love it when my daughter comes and gets in bed with me. She's 18, but she'll come and get in bed with me, first thing in the morning, and she'll say, "Can I talk to you about something?" And you're like, "Yeah, let's talk." We'll spend an hour talking, and she'll get out her phone and show me something on her phone, or she'll want to talk about something. And it's just, I love that. It's time. Time is the most expensive commodity because we've got so little of it. And so giving it away where you're fully focused is just such a special gift to give someone.
Can relate to you. As a younger than that, on a Saturday morning, there's five of us in our bed every Saturday morning. Yeah, that's how it starts the weekend. All right, now we've had this interview then. What do you think the headline of this interview should be?
What do you think it should be, James?
I like what you... I had notes of the blind visionary before, and, but there's some things that you've said. Especially, look, my favourite point has been that emotion that you built about getting it right. Literally, if you're gonna sell your business, get it right, do it in the right way for you, be aware of all of it and plan it out. It can be a 3 to 5 year journey. I want to put that in it, getting it right. There's something in that.
I think it's everyone gets somewhere in life, and some people get there on purpose. And I think that is just as true in everything, but particularly in a business sale. Particularly when you're doing this, do it deliberately, do it on purpose, and do it with style. Get that aspirational buyer. You know, get that buyer that you really, really want, that brand that you really aspirationally want to see alongside yours. Build that business for that exit, and one that enables you to, you know, do the things that you really care about.
Sell it deliberately, on purpose, and with style.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are a rock star, aren't you? Okay, so what's the first action that the listeners should take?
Well, I would love to hear from anyone. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me, Liz Jackson, on LinkedIn. So reach out to me or reach out to Initium on our website, and talk to your coach, and have that proper conversation with your coach about life, the universe, and everything. You know, put aside the spreadsheets for a minute and just say, where's this all going?
Where are we going with this?
Yeah.
What's been your favourite part of the conversation?
I think you're lovely. I love you. I love your interview style. I think that's great.
And by the way, the listeners don't know, you've sat in and listened to other interviews as well.
And I was massively intimidated from that last interview that I just listened into, because I was thinking, flip, and now James is going to interview me, and that was wonderful.
Liz, you're wonderful. You're an inspiration, you know, and, you know, from what you've been through and how you've eloquently spoken about the sale of a business. You've shared stuff on here that I've not heard anyone else share, especially when you painted those pictures about the entrepreneurs, and you've got to do this right. You need the right people in your corner. And anyway, that's why ActionCOACH are partnering with you as well. So on behalf of all the listeners,
Thanks, James.
thank you very much.